Hey everybody, I'm Lane, and welcome to the For the Youth podcast, where we're having crucial conversations about life, faith, and church. In this month's episode, Zack and Spencer ask college pastor Jeremy some solid questions about moving on from your high school years to your college years, which is so important, and we're so excited for you to hear that conversation. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and if this was helpful to you, maybe share it with a friend, and leave a 5-star review so it can help even more people. We've also got some ways for you to keep learning and get connected in the description for this episode. Also, you might not know this, but some of our team is having a pretty good time on Twitch. If you like gaming, making friends on Discord, and online Bible studies, then you need to hit the link in our description and join Josh at Movement Youth Gaming on Twitch. He's live every Tuesday and Thursday from 3:30 to 6:30, and it's an absolute blast. Well, without further ado, let's jump into this month's episode of the For the Youth podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to the For the Youth podcast. This is episode 2, and we are here with Spencer Thomas.
Yes.
How you doing, Spencer?
Doing good.
I'm glad to have you. Spencer is a high school senior, about to be college freshman, but also kind of about to be a college sophomore, right?
It's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Dual enrollment confuses everything.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, and so your transition from youth ministry to college ministry is unique, but we're trying to help you out here. We're going to bring in some experts. Well, only one expert. We could only afford one expert. Hey, I haven't introduced you yet. Calm down.
Quiet.
We want you to have all the answers you need to go from youth ministry to college ministry. I'm just like delaying your intro.
And then I'll be set.
It's going to be a voice from heaven.
Yeah. God, is that you? It's a voice from the Lord. Jeremy Large, who's here to answer some of these questions. Jeremy's hello.
Hey.
It's
Hey.
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 He's a college pastor extraordinaire. I mean, you're a pretty swell college pastor.
Some
if
people
I do
say that.
So
Most
myself.
people say that.
Most people say that.
You know, the jury's still out, but yeah.
And any dissenting voices, we take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we take care
How
of
do
them.
we take care of them?
Well, you know, we throw them a party.
Oh, yeah. Nobody loves
With the
a good
fishes,
celebration.
you know, with the fishes. I've been watching too many mafia movies lately. We don't do anything like that. But Jeremy is here to is here to answer some questions about, you know, going from youth ministry to college ministry, and we're going to get to that. But I really do want to start with something that is heavy on my heart. It's important. I think it needs to be addressed. Pete Davidson or Kanye West?
Well, here's what we would say. I'm going to give it a little bit of a different answer.
A collective agreement.
I feel like, you know, Kanye's had his time.
He's had his time.
So I think when everybody looks at Pete Davidson, I think they think two things.
Wow, that's a lot of tattoos.
A lot of tattoos.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's a comedian. And I lean
Yep.
a little bit towards the comedians.
Yeah.
So for that reason and that reason alone,
You're a funny guy.
Pete Davidson.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was gonna work in like a fungus joke, you know,
Like a fungus among us.
yeah, fungus. Well, I was gonna be like, you're a fun guy, that kind of joke.
man.
I couldn't remember how the
It's been a
setup for the
long
joke
time
worked
in
out.
youth ministry, hasn't it?
Yeah,
It's been too
been a
long.
long time, longer than you. No, Spencer, what is your answer? Kanye or old Pete?
I go old Pete.
Old
I
Pete.
think Kanye, you know, lived his life.
I mean,
Kanye.
if you'd answered this question 2 years ago, right as Jesus King dropped,
I would have said Kanye for president.
All day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now Pete needs to live.
yeah,
You know,
he
his
needs
life.
to not die, which is
Yeah, he needs to. Yeah.
Well, I have a
some
question.
would argue that, you know, Kanye's agenda would have
I feel
would
like everybody
have an
knows
issue with that.
what Zach's gonna say. So maybe could I just a little bit of a
Yeah, go
different thing?
ahead.
Would you have you ever considered Kanye like a muse?
A what?
A muse?
I mean,
M-U-S-E?
I know what that is, but just in case our audience doesn't know what
I'm
that
not
is,
sure.
Yeah, I think you should tell the audience
Yeah,
what it is.
Inspiring.
inspiring. I think there's some inspiration. But here's the thing: all of us Christians, all of us like people who are in church, when Kanye came out with Jesus is King, all of us were like, yeah,
Yeah.
We were
he's our
like,
Christian now. And
Pete
then he
Christian.
was like, I'm gonna bury Pete Davidson, and we were like, yo, my goodness. And we just, distance ourselves real quick.
We did.
I'm conflicted is my answer. I'm
tough.
conflicted.
I mean,
you know?
people mess up, right?
I hate to see it. I hate to see it. Yeah, people mess up, but still you hate to see it. That's not really what we're here for. I know it's a huge surprise to everyone watching and listening at home or in the car, wherever you're watching and listening from. What we're really talking about is how to help you out, Spencer.
Yes.
This is an intervention.
Yeah.
a live intervention.
Okay.
We've been talking for, 7, 8 years?
Yeah.
No, we're not confronting you on anything. We really want to help you in this transition from youth ministry to college ministry. We want to help really everybody out who's making that kind of change, going from youth ministry to college ministry. It's a big deal, especially if you're really involved in your youth group like you are, Spencer. And so if you're watching, listening, we hope that this is helpful. And really also there's kind of a lot of pressure on you, Spencer, more so than me and Jeremy here.
Yeah.
Because we're hoping that, you can answer, or rather ask all the questions that our viewers and listeners are thinking.
Right.
Like, how do I do X, Y, or Z? You need to be thinking how do
tone in with everybody.
Yeah. How do like 12 million high school seniors across the United States think, and what are their concerns?
And if you miss a question,
Yeah.
they're sending their complaints to you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna hit you up on the gram. What's your Instagram handle?
Spencer Thomas 02.
What's the O2 stand for?
My birthday.
That's what I thought.
But it's February because 04 was taken.
We have to warn our listeners and our viewers, though. Spencer's Instagram is interesting. We were talking about it earlier. Spencer's Instagram is kind of like a Christian thirst trap. It really is. And some of you might not be ready for that.
So what does that mean? Like, of the last 20 pictures, last 10 pictures you've posted, how many of them are of you holding a guitar or holding chairs?
Like stacking chairs?
If it's more than one, it's too many.
Yeah, the too many, maybe.
Yeah. Well, the hair flip mid worship is just little warm for some folks.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not trying to call you out. You live your life. Do whatever it is the Lord has put on your heart. If that is
Well, how many pictures do you have in your life of
playing guitar? 0.
Or holding chairs?
Oh,
holding chairs?
I don't know.
carrying.
You don't just hold chairs. How many people do you know that just sit there like, I got my chair, just holding?
Those who are trying to impress.
There's so many. Actually.
So the idea is you're representing your constituents all across, not just the United States, the whole world. The whole world is counting on you. So you can ask some questions of Jeremy. Okay. We've got a few that we're going to start with that you submitted and some other people submitted here in the Gainesville, Florida area, the 352.
The swamp.
The swamp.
Look at us.
You guys are like
already connecting.
Adorable.
We're finishing each other's
sentences.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say sandwiches.
Oh.
No, and this is going to be great. It's almost like you're getting ready to go into his college ministry.
Well, here's what we have going for us. We have there's a bond that we have that nobody else at this table has is we're both tall.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second.
Here's the thing. I got a tall chair to sit on, and for the first time in my life, I'm looking down at both of you guys. It's great.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it's pretty snazzy. No, so we've got some questions. Why don't we start with question number uno, number 1.
Oh, thank you. I was confused.
Spanish
like
for one. No. The question that we're going to start with is, if you're changing cities or changing states, you're going to a different university, not like Spencer. How do you pick a church in that new environment, new city, new state?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a couple pro tips, but maybe before that, an expectation. I think a lot of times people are looking for their home church. I grew up in Okeechobee, Florida.
Big lake down there.
Best giant lake. It's like an ocean full of alligators.
Yeah.
I was really a part of my youth group. And so then I went to school in Chicago, and I was looking for First Baptist Church of Okeechobee every turn. And I tried some churches, and none of them passed the First Baptist Church of Okeechobee vibe check. And so I was like, man, these churches, none of them are for me. In a giant city, not one church is for me. And I think looking back, one of my problems was my expectation. I was looking for Okeechobee instead of looking for a healthy church. So I think the first thing is I think it's really simple, but I think we fall into it is look for a healthy church. And I think some ways that you can measure that is like just what they're teaching. I think that's a huge part of it. So as you're hearing, maybe in the small group on Sunday, like auditing what's being said. I think it's worth exploring. Maybe what they say on their website's helpful.
Oh yeah. Scroll through that What We Believe page.
Oh yeah.
Be like, They didn't say they're dispensationalists, so I can't
I'm
go.
out. Dispensationalists.
I'm joking.
I think another thing, a good sign for a church is what is their their friendship with the community. If they're a church where they're like, we're just focused on what we're doing, hey, we're not challenging you to be in the community, to be known in that community, they might have great theology, but I would say maybe not a red flag, but I would say it's a
yellow
concern.
flag. Maybe
Yellow flag, no doubt.
What is there something between orange flag between yellow and orange?
I'm right now not sure if it's yellow or orange, and that I'm embarrassed, but it's yellow, right?
I feel like
It's
it's
yellow.
orange. No, I know there is a yellow flag. I don't think there's an orange flag. I'm just saying it could be like not quite a red flag, but worse than a yellow flag.
I have never once watched NASCAR.
I'm probably. Oh, I don't even know if that's our NASCAR reference.
Has to.
I don't know.
We're probably majoring on some minors here. Come on, guys. Try to focus.
So sorry.
College
It's all the
masters.
dispensationalist jokes that Spencer's making.
Okay, so
sorry.
those are some marks of a healthy church, and that's really, really important. And you're saying don't necessarily look for like that Goldilocks church that's exactly what I'm used to.
Which probably doesn't exist. You'll spend a lot of time looking
Right.
and being disgruntled at your church not existing.
Yeah, kind of pouting and complaining to God. Don't do that. That's really, really helpful. Any other like marks of a healthy church or anything else that you wanted to point out before we move on?
I think maybe the next thing would just be community. I know that's like, man, you hear that. It's like everybody says it.
Christian buzzword.
Buzzword.
But it's because it's true.
But I think it's worth looking at. Is there a pathway for me to be known by other people? I feel like I'm just showing up on Sunday and that's what it is to be involved. That's not going to sustain you. So I think that'd be the last thing is, what does it look like to be a known member of this church?
That's good. That's really good. Spencer, anything you wanted to ask to clarify or argue or complain?
Mainly arguments, please.
Yeah.
I think he touched base on all that.
Yeah, he did. And really, this is going to kind of segue us into the question that's maybe more relevant to you because you're staying in Gainesville.
Right.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Praise Jesus. I'm excited about that.
I know a college ministry for you.
Yeah, we got a college ministry. This is actually just a way to corner you and get you to sign you have a contract.
Oh,
right?
I have it right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy Alvin. Anyways, so here's the deal. Spencer's staying in Gainesville. So do you have any advice for people who aren't leaving town and maybe they're in like that college ministry age, but they're maybe not even going to a college. So they're going to be sticking at their home church. How do they do that well?
Right. Yeah.
I have a ton of like empathy for that because I think that's a really, I would say the hardest seat to be in because here's what you are going to experience your first year in college ministry.
What is it?
It's you're going to show up to something.
I'm sorry. That's
well,
not what.
hopefully not Westside College at least. You're going to show up and you're going to show up to an event and there's going to be some sophomore who couldn't tell you anything about Gainesville, right?
Right.
They don't know where Four Rivers is at, which is the most important thing to know.
Yeah, they got to know that.
Yeah.
And
You
then
don't know
they got to
where
know
Four
where
Rivers is
Bev's
at.
Better Burgers is.
And they're going to be like, hey, we're just so glad you're here. They're going to try to show you around the church. And here's what you know. You're like, I've been coming here for a decade. I know this place.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's a little bit disruptive because you feel like nobody, it's going to have a posture of nobody knowing you because.
like a stranger in your own home.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That is, man.
I just,
That might be semantics I'm going to steal from now on.
Yeah, there you go.
So I think that's just a hurdle to it. But you know what I would say to you, man, is I think that freshman year, you should really focus on like it's a moment where this church is going to be yours. Like you should make sure, like if I want to be a part of Westside or whatever that church is, that's the season. Commit to it. And I think there's something so sweet and good about going from I'm in a youth ministry of my church to staying in this church. There's just amount of influence. And I think of understanding the culture.
Yeah.
But I think
longevity.
Longevity is powerful. But I think that freshman year, if you're like, I just feel trapped to it, they're like, hey, that's not going to sustain you, right? If you're like, I'm just forced to be here, that's not going to be good.
Right.
But using that freshman year, leaning in, because I think being a part of a church in college isn't like you're not on the sidelines. You're a part of the church. It's a valid place to be, and so making sure that you're picking that church.
Right.
Does that make
really
sense?
good.
Yeah. Do you think that staying with that church, if it has a college ministry, right? Like staying with that church, is that a good thing to do at first, when going into college, or trying other college ministries around? Because I know there's like BCM and Crew and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At least in Gainesville.
I think it depends. So I think for some people, they're like, you know what? I know that I want to stay at my church. And if for them, I'm like, if you already know that, there's no need to look around, right? Like you're like,
right.
That means that in high school, middle school, that church was a part of you.
Right.
But maybe it was one of those things where you're like, I was just kind of sticking around because that's where my parents went. That's where. And I think if that is your situation, I think you need to make your next church your own. So you might need to do a church search. I think with like, BCM and Crew and like different campus ministries, those are great.
Right.
But those aren't churches. Right. So But I think it's totally fine to do a church search. But I think what you want to chase is, I want this to be my church. I don't want it to be my parents'
Some
church.
ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing that I like, could I steal one of your terms? To push back. I'm not pushing back at all.
So you're completely using my term without its meaning.
I'm using a term without its meaning.
Love it.
I think like maybe clarification, if that's even a thing, is sometimes I meet people who are really involved and committed and fulfilled in their church as a high schooler, but then somewhere they get this idea that says, oh, now that I'm in college, I'm supposed to leave.
Yeah.
And it's not that they have a problem with anything at the church. It's not that they're not making friends or being discipled. They're just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's where I push back.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, why? Like this church has invested so many hours into you, so many man hours and dollars sometimes even, as far as, materials and staff and, and they've literally invested in you. Right. Wouldn't it be really neat to turn around and invest back into that church?
Yeah.
Not that, high schoolers don't invest back into the church already. Like you've been literally stacking chairs and playing guitar and doing everything else.
Taking pictures,
right. All of it. But is that kind of making sense?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see a little bit of that, like, hey, I need to like find my own church just for the sake of it being my own church?
I mean, yeah, I see that, but yeah, kind of already feeling home here with this church, and continuing with that is probably healthy, even going in already knowing some people, is probably for the better of it,
Yeah. Yeah. We're really relieved to hear that.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason that we brought you on this podcast, is just be like, hey, do you
know
what Spencer's doing next year?
But I think that makes sense. I mean, like, you are in a youth ministry at the church. It's not like you go to college, it's another church. So I think there's something right that you're like, if somebody's like, man, like, do I want to stay at this church? I'm like, well, did you love being in the youth ministry? You're going to love being in the college ministry.
Right. Yeah. That's a good word. Okay, so now we've talked about like, how do you choose a church when you're going to a new place? How do you stay in a church when you're staying in the same city? I had a few other questions that we'd already kind of like thought through just a little bit. What is the right amount of church service? And I love this question. One of our seniors submitted this already. They said, listen, like, I want to do everything. I want to get involved in the youth group and the children's ministry, and I want to run a camera. And some people just love being involved, but especially your first year in college. Do you have any advice as far as that goes?
I do. I think there's 3 areas that people should have in their life, and I think we can overemphasize any of them. So you are going to school, and so you should prioritize academics, and that is important. It's a season. I think you should be a steward of your time at school. But if your whole entire life is only school, I think you're gonna be an unhealthy person. I think another thing is like, spiritual. Like, am I in like a part of my church? Am I just like showing up on Sunday, or am I known? And there's some people who they're like, their whole entire life is the church. And I also think that's unhealthy. I think, yeah.
He said what he said.
Said what I said. I think the last thing is personal. And I would say that's everything outside of academic and like church. So that could be, I'm involved with student organizations. These are my friends, what I spend time with. People can do all those things, but if they're just doing that and they're not spending time doing their school, or they're only at the church, whatever that is, I think those are 3 good things that it's bad if you don't do all 3. So what I would tell any student is, you want to find the balance. So you want to plan, and I think you should plan, not just like react. Right. You should plan to have a balance of, this is what it looks like to be in a part of my church community. That's being on church on Sunday. I think that's having some type of, I'm in a small community. That could be, for us, that's a life group. But whatever that is at that church, you should prioritize that. I think the next thing is, academics. You need to be a steward of that time. If you're like, man, my church involvement or my involvement at a frat means that I'm going to fail school, like, hey, you're doing that wrong. You're missing that. I think you should be doing your best in school. And the last thing is like looking for places in your life where you aren't spending time with at least Christians. If you're a believer and the only people you know are Christians, I think you are an unhealthy Christian. Right. So I think the last thing is making sure that you have a place. Maybe that's, I'm in a campus organization, you're in like a fraternity, sorority, or whatever that is. I think you should protect being in that. And I think you'll be I think it's just one of the healthiest things if you are balanced spiritually, academically, and personally.
Like well-rounded. Right?
Yeah. But I think to be well-rounded is all three of those things.
Yeah. That's so well said.
All right. So what about finding like the difference between a college ministry, like a campus one, and like a church college ministry?
That makes sense. So like the difference between like FCA and NAVS and BCM, these are campus ministries.
All of them.
Yeah, well, we touched on earlier.
Yeah. Well, I think they're great. I think they're good for, it's going to bring together at a location that's very convenient, people that are in the exact same circumstances you. And I think that's very powerful. I think it's really good. I think a danger is if your spiritual life your answer is any campus ministry alone, right? Like you're like, my group is, I'm a NAV, FCA, whatever that answer is. Because I think two very important problems of that is that's setting you up to be isolated when you graduate. If your whole entire Christian experience is wrapped up with other college students, you're graduating into like being isolated.
Oh, that's so well said. That's kind of like when people are only involved in their youth group and they don't come on Sunday mornings. They're not a part of the rest of the church. They're like, no, my church experience is with 12 to 18-year-olds. That's not the whole church. It's
not the whole church. And that's that second part is like, I think the one of the sweet parts of a church is multi-generational. Yeah. So like, how can we measure this? Well, like, if you only hang out with college students at your church, I'm like, there's a problem there, right? Like you need to have a pathway to connect with other generations. So for us, I mean, we want our college students to spend time with youth. There's something where they're able to share what they've learned, but we also try to connect our college students with people who've graduated, who have young families, people who've maybe a couple steps ahead of them who can walk with them, be like, hey, I've been there. Because here's what's going to happen. Wisdom. Yeah, here's what's going to happen in college ministry. You're going to, in December, everybody you know is going to be stressed out of their mind with finals. And you're going to start to think, this is my world. And then you go to Publix and they're not stressed. It's a reminder. I think what's so good about like church communities, like you're like, life is bigger than this moment right here. And I think we need that. So what I would say is I think campus ministry is so helpful, but making sure that like for sustainable Christian life, you got to be in a church context where that's a place where you're in community with people who aren't of the same generation.
And you think it's fine, like almost being involved in both at the same time?
Oh yeah. I think it's tough. I think it's so admirable, but both groups a lot of the time are asking you to do similar things.
And they're playing for the same team most of the time. They've both got their own schedules. Yeah. They've got their own agendas and priorities.
The tricky thing is it very likely could be, man, both these groups are asking me to be in a small group. Both of these groups are, church is asking me to be there on Sunday. Then this other group's asking me to be there on Thursday. And then, you know what? We're trying to do small groups. We're trying to do all these same things. We're trying to do mission trips together. And at some point, you're like, I'm trying to do double everything. So I think if you're involved in a campus ministry, I think you need to ask, like, what is critical to be happening at a church? And so I'll be honest with you. I think that answer has to involve, like, going to church on Sunday. I think that is, if you want to meet other generations, best place, Sunday morning. I think you should be in a community of where, like, you're accountable to and encouraged by the church. So that's, like, for us, that's a life group. But in a group where, like, they're able to, like, if there's something going on in your life, you need prayer, you need encouragement, that's able to get towards the pastors there of that church. I think those two are important. I think for some students at Westside, there's students where like they're serving, they're on like FCA, they're on BCM leadership. And so one of our church ethics is like serving on a team. And so if those people come to me like, am I serving on a team? You absolutely are serving on a team. If you are working with FCA and you're helping connect people on campus to church, that is serving the mission. That is helping those people be faithful believers. So I think the question is just making sure that you not just doing everything double, but doing what is critical in both.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. Yeah.
Makes total sense. I feel like this is like a Amy Comey Barrett moment right here. Like, would you mind showing the audience your notes here that you brought with you for this right here? Yeah. No notes whatsoever.
notes.
This man is just like pulling all this out of his brain.
There's some database in there that he's pre-written all this.
I mean, we're saying this about me, but Spencer also doesn't have notes, and I feel like you're kind of flying past that.
Oh, Spencer's killing it.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
Thriving.
But you see,
Thriving.
I have a few questions here and there. You have the answers.
Yeah, you have like 17 answers.
Well, I've heard you
like,
give some answers. I'm going to deflect so well.
Yeah, you just take the compliment.
Hey,
you got a very lovely brain.
My
a
guy,
very lovely brain.
Thank you. Grateful.
You do. Lots of wisdom that we're taking away from this. I have another question here that somebody submitted. They were a high school senior. They said, how do you stay missional in college? Like, how do you meet lost people? How do you use those opportunities well? How do you share the gospel? All of the above.
No, I like that question. I feel like I think a lot of the time we turn mission into I have to like reinvent the wheel. Like where I need to like to be missional, I'm holding the sign that says turn or burn, or maybe I need to connect with people so we don't look at what we're already doing in our life. Or like, you know what, I need to start this new hobby. I would say it's look around what you're already doing is the first step. So if you're a student, you very likely live at the dorm. Ton of people.
Chance.
Yeah, I don't think there's unless you're in the Christian like fraternity, you're gonna be around people. You're living with people who don't know Jesus. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're gonna go to class, and I don't know any Christian only class. That's farmers only, maybe, but not Christian only. Is there that's Christian
so.
mingle? Anyways, moving on.
Which we just signed Spencer up for before we started this podcast.
I would love to watch a year long.
Go hop on.
Didn't know about this.
Hit up your boy.
And so, like, looking around, like, hey, this is where the people I live. This is the, where I'm going to school, or even the hobbies. Like, I'm a big proponent of, I love basketball. Mm-hmm. I want to use basketball as a place to connect with people who don't know Jesus and share my faith. So I think a big part of being missional is looking around at what's already going on in your life and seeing
how can I use
the
that
lostness around. And then I think the second thing is I say gospel fluent. I think that sometimes we can turn it into, man, I just got to look for an opportunity for somebody to be like, man, I just have no hope in life. And you're like, I know a hope, right?
I just wish I had a savior.
Or you're like trying to transition every sentence, right? So they're like, man, I love Star Wars. And you're like, you know what? You know who is
hung
the
stars in the sky and the moon as well?
Yeah, Anakin, he's the hero, but he's ultimately the bad guy. You know a hero who never fails you? Jesus.
Boom.
You know what? Honestly, that could preach right there. But I think looking at, Jesus, the gospel connects to every part of our life. Mm-hmm. And so when we are in school, I think it speaks into like we see life not through a lens of I think hopelessness, but hopefulness. I think that is something that is so different than you go on campus. There's people who are struggling for hope. They're looking at life and they're just like it feels meaningless. That impacts so many things. Looking for those ways to share the gospel in a fluent way that connects well would be the two things I would say. Look around your life and be gospel fluent.
Look around your life, be gospel fluent.
No,
are you taking notes?
Yeah, in the brain.
You're supposed to.
You're like, that's why you're recording it, right?
That's why we're recording this, so you can watch this 45 times over.
Zach, I feel like you could probably add to that too, though. I mean,
about how to be missional?
Yeah, I feel like
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think, well, like you said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do something brand new. You don't have to take up finger painting in order to meet people. But I think one thing you talked about is being gospel fluent and just realizing that there are opportunities to share Jesus all of the time, and you don't have to force it. Doesn't have to be cringy.
Shouldn't be cringy.
It shouldn't be cringy. Although I will say, like, are you saying we shouldn't have the turn or burn signs, because those are pretty effective by one person's
I'll let you
standard.
hold the signs, and I'm just gonna be playing basketball.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'll watch.
We'll see who gets the best
basketball
tally mark here. Yeah, I think that's well said. So I don't want this to get away from us. I want to say, hey, like we've understood a little bit about how to change churches if we're going to a new town. And we actually, by the way, did an entire episode about that. It was the very first episode. So if that is interesting to you, you want to know a little bit more about that, you can go back and find that.
Thank you for listening to this episode first, though.
Yeah. I mean,
because that makes the most sense.
It does make the most sense.
Yeah. But now that I know, I'm going back to listen to it.
That's good. That's good to hear. So we know how to change churches if you're going to a new place. You know how to stay faithful in a church when you're staying put. We've talked about how to stay well around it and make sure that we're involved in all of these different places. And we've got our personal lives rounded out. We've got our spiritual life, our church life rounded out, academics as well. And then we just talked about how to be missional in the college experience. So I think we've learned a lot. Spencer, are there any like kind of final takeaways or questions you're like, hey, we still haven't gotten to this yet? Remember, your constituents are listening and watching,
right,
counting on you.
I know, a lot of pressure. I think, I don't know if I have anything new, but what we were talking about is really good. I see with me and a lot of my friends that will sometimes try to reach new people and aren't strong with our morals. So we'll fall back and conform to the world instead of being this light that other people, you bring people to God, right? Because college is crazy. A lot of things change. Life is moving fast, right? So almost like, how do you stay rooted deeply?
That's one thing I think we could wrap up with. We could talk about this for a second, because I think a lot of people are viewing college like the boogeyman, like, oh man, it's gonna gobble me up. I've heard that I'm probably gonna denounce my faith by the end of my college experience.
Right.
I've heard that I'm probably, just gonna get drunk every weekend and I'm not even gonna be able to help it. Like, you can help it. There are some things that you can do. Any advice, Jeremy, as far as staying rooted and holding on to your faith as you start that college experience?
Yeah, I think if you have that concern, I mean, you're not gonna look around tomorrow and change that. I think when that happens, it's a slow fade. I think there's a really cheesy
It's
old
a slow
song. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Is that Casting Crowns?
It is Casting Crowns, but I didn't want to act
so
like I knew it off the top of my head.
You knew it.
I did. Honestly, I think one of the 2 points of advice I would say is, making sure that you're walking with the Lord, knowing that your relationship is with Him. Like, it's not because of somebody else. Like, my friends are Christians, my parents are Christian, whatever that is. Like, you have to see that it's yours. And I think that changes. I think that'll really change it, where you're like, oh man, it's the burden to be a Christian, whatever it is. It's changing for, this is who I am. But I think anybody can go through that stuff. It can be really difficult. I think what we need to be in community with others. I went to school with old Jernigan for a little bit.
Sure did.
Wow.
And
we were roomies for a minute.
We were roomies for a small, just for a summer. But it was a great summer.
Who was that unfortunate for, though?
The third guy.
The third guy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what I would say is we need each other. Like, I think, like, God used Jernigan so much in my life.
Stop it.
That my second year of college, and even that summer where we were doing this work, and it could be really discouraging. It was really tiring. So God used Zack to be an encouragement in my life. Yeah. That is an example of how are you going to get through college? You're not going to get through it alone. I'll tell you that. You need to be in community with other believers.
People that can hold you accountable.
Yeah.
I remember actually in college, there was a time I got in trouble. I made some mistakes, and I had to I knew exactly who I had to go talk to. It was Jeremy. Yeah. And I was like, there's nothing else we can talk about until I get this off my chest.
He set you straight.
Yeah, he set me straight. Yeah. And he'd be encouraging, not, just like destroying me and making me feel rotten. But that's why you need church, and you need some people who will hold you accountable when you don't show up. Because newsflash, like your first day in college, especially if you're not living at home, no one wakes you up and makes you go to church, right? And we were at a Bible college where some people in Bible college,
many people
were skipping church on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. So Bedside Baptist is growing, and it is. I'll say, I think I'm here to say I love churches. There's not a church that I probably will say anything negative of right now, except for Bedside Baptist.
Yeah, got to stop that.
It's not doing anything good for you.
No.
If you have consistent Bedside Baptist attendance, it's 100% bad for you.
We're practicing church discipline right now.
Yeah,
you're called out.
And Spencer,
Reverend Jeremy,
are you a
Large
member of Bedside Baptist?
We know you better not be.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
No, because he's stacking chairs.
There you go.
Taking pictures.
In the name of Jesus.
There you go.
Amen.
Yeah. Hey, this has been so great. I hope that this has been an encouragement to you as you're watching or listening. And Jeremy, I think we could put our hands together and just pray. Ask real nicely, please, please, please share this with somebody who's going to college this semester or next semester, or it's around
even
the corner.
The semester after that.
Yeah. Ooh. Maybe they're listening to this like an episode or a semester late, but better late than never, right?
Yeah. Or maybe you're a seventh grader
it.
now, but just you're cashing it for 5 years.
No shot. They're going to forget every word of this before they graduate.
Take some notes,
Take some notes like Spencer's doing after this.
And then set a reminder in your phone for 9 years from now to, remind you to look at those notes. they're totally doing that.
Yeah.
That's
they're
how,
smart.
That's how this platform is growing. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. Thank you for watching and listening. Make sure to like and subscribe, all of that stuff. And we'll see you in the next episode.